Log entry 9915 Omega. I've noticed that whenever the topic of Krogan comes up, the conversation rarely stays calm for long. It becomes emotional rather quickly, defensive, accusatory, which is understandable, but also not especially productive. I am a Salarian. We tend to think aloud. We test ideas as we speak, revise them mid-sentence. Reflection is not a weakness to us, it is how clarity forms, so allow me to do that here. On an individual level, I get along with Krogans. Truly. Some of the most reliable allies I've worked with were Krogan mercenaries, Krogan engineers, and even Krogan scientists. Yes, they exist. They can be loyal, direct, refreshingly honest. You always know where you stand with them. That is not the problem, as they are the exception. The problem arises when individual experience is used to dismiss collective reality. Galactic society does not function on anecdotes. It functions on trends. Patterns emerge whether we wish them to or not, and refusing to acknowledge them does not make them disappear, it merely blinds us to their consequences. When many galactic citizens describe Krogans as volatile or dangerous, they are not inventing this perception out of malice, they are responding to repeated exposure to the same behaviors. Escalation over negotiation, violence as first response rather than last, and a cultural admiration for dominance rather than restraint, doing as they want without care of repercussion or consequence, and knowing full well that most would turn a blind eye to their behaviors due to sympathy for their species. This is not moral judgment, this is observation. And no, this is not unique only to Krogans. We do the same analysis with Vorcha, with Batarians, with any species whose collective behavior consistently clashes with Citadel norms. Pattern recognition is not prejudice, it is how multi-species civilizations survive. Pretending otherwise is, frankly, irresponsible. I often hear the counter-argument, Salarians have done terrible things too. Correct, and we do not deny it. In fact, we obsess over it. Our historical mistakes are studied extensively, not to wallow in guilt, but to prevent repetition. Modern Salarian culture is shaped by an almost pathological need to correct for our past excesses. We recognize patterns in ourselves, and we changed. And our civilization and our colonies, when allowed to flourish without outside input, are some of the most well-established colonies in Citadel space, which then raises a fair question. If it is acceptable to analyze our past behavior critically, why is it unacceptable for us or anyone to analyze Krogan behavior in the present? This is where discomfort sets in, because the conclusion is not flattering. The reason Krogans are not a council race is not hatred, it is incompatibility. Council space requires compromise, predictability, willingness to subordinate individual impulse for collective stability. At present, Krogan culture largely rejects these principles, not accidentally, but proudly. That is their right, but it also has consequences. None of this means Krogans are incapable of change, nor does it mean that they are irredeemable. It simply means that until the broader cultural patterns shift, until governance, restraint, and accountability are valued internally rather than imposed externally, skepticism toward Krogan integration is not irrational, it is cautious. And caution, in galactic terms, is often what prevents catastrophe. There is also the matter of their homeworld, Tuchanka. It is often spoken of as a tragedy, a ruined world, a victim of circumstance. That framing is incomplete. Tuchanka is not merely hostile by nature, it is hostile by history. Long before outside intervention, Krogan society shaped their homeworld into what it is now, through endless internal conflict, unchecked militarization, and the systematic elevation of strength over stewardship. Ecological collapse does not occur spontaneously, it is the result of sustained behavior. This is why Krogan ritual culture appears so primitive when compared to council races. When survival is constant, brutal, and immediate, long-term abstraction disappears. You do not develop layered institutions, you do not refine philosophy or law, you ritualize violence because violence becomes your organizing principle. And when those that find themselves in power continue the same behavior for centuries, no homeworld could hope to become something better, even when outside intervention attempts to aid, even when upliftment of the species was given. What outsiders often mistake for honored traditions are, in reality, adaptive behaviors born from a world where governance failed and strength became the only reliable currency. That is not romantic, it is limiting. And perhaps the most telling detail is this. Many Krogan born off Tuchanka do not wish to return to their homeworld. Yes, many have this romantic attachment to this homeworld of theirs, and fair enough. But none of those that romanticize Tuchanka ever return to it. Not out of fear, Krogans are rarely afraid, but out of recognition. Even Krogan colonies, harsh as they are preferable, and that's saying something. Because those colonies were not seized through conquest, they were given, granted to the Krogan as gratitude after the Rachni War. A chance, an opportunity, a clean slate. And yet, despite better conditions, despite external support, those worlds did not evolve into something meaningfully different. If anything, they became echoes of Tuchanka. Less irradiated, less broken, but culturally familiar. Even when they are able to start anew, away from the way things were done on Tuchanka, it fast becomes the same thing, really. This is why few non-Krogans visit Tuchanka willingly, and why many Krogans themselves avoid it. A homeworld reflects its people as much as it shapes them. And Tuchanka reflects a society that never really moved beyond conflict as identity, never beyond the baser instincts being their go-to behaviors, never really beyond violence as a resolution for anything. None of this is said with contempt, only with consistency, with logical observation. If environment follows behavior, and history suggests it does, then Tuchanka is not merely a cautionary tale of what was done to the Krogan. It is a record of what the Krogan repeatedly chose to do to themselves. You can respect a Krogan individually, work with them, trust them with your life even, and still acknowledge that the collective reputation of their species did not emerge from nothing. Those ideas are not contradictory, they are mature. That is all I wish to clarify. Not to condemn, not to provoke, only to think aloud, and perhaps remind others that logic, when applied evenly, is not cruelty, it is honesty. Now, if only the humans could recognize the same thing within themselves and reflect upon their own homeworld. Pattern recognition is logical.